Walmart is the largest company in the world by revenue, making over $600 billion a year, and yet Walmart's founder was born into poverty growing up on a farm. During the Great Depression, he was even told by his boss that he wasn't cut out for retail work. And so the story of how Walmart's founder built this gigantic business empire is incredible, but to some people, the Walmart story is a tragedy of unethical corporate greed gone too far, because during its rise, Walmart has faced countless scandals, EVI dents of large-scale bribery, and has brutally crushed its competition using cutthroat tactics. So it's time we delve into the insane true story of music, Walmart. Sam Walton was born on March 29, 1918, in the small town of King, Oklahoma. His parents were farmers, but they struggled to make enough to get by. So at just 8 years old, Sam was already selling magazine subscriptions and doing anything he could to bring in extra money to support his family. He helped his mother out with milk deliveries and even raised rabbits and pigeons to sell. But unfortunately, the family's financial situation only got worse. The Great Depression struck in 1929 and the family farm went under. Sam's father became desperate for work and took the only job he could, get working for an insurance company where he was put in charge of servicing old farm loans that were in default. This meant he was now in charge of shutting down small farms, just like his own, for failing to pay their debts, and at many of these farms were run service after graduation, and when he wasn't focused on his economics major, Sam waited tables in exchange for free food. He was used to providing for himself, in fact, during high school. Sam had started a small newspaper delivery business, but by the end of his time at college, he'd hired a few helpers and expanded the number of routes he was running, which led to the business making over $4,000 per year. Sam seemingly had a mind for business, and so in 1940, after graduating, Sam got a job at JCPenney. A Second World War, the army called on him to serve. Sam was assigned to the military police, which meant he stayed stateside rather than fighting overseas, and it was there that Sam's life would change forever. Music. Sam met Helen Robson in a bowling alley. She was on a date with another guy at the time, but Sam didn't care. He made his move, and they were married less than a year later, and this marriage would end up being very advantageous for Sam's career. You see, Helen's father was a wealthy lawyer and a variety of goods. The problem was, the reason Sam had been able to afford to buy this store was because it was losing money. It had been making less than half the sales of its main competitor across the street. Plus, Sam's rent was 5% of all the sales the store made, which Sam later realized was the highest rent in the industry. It's also worth noting that Sam was just 27 years old at this point and had never actually run a store before, but it was immediately clear to Sam that for the shop to be a success, to make things as cheap as possible, Sam needed cheap items, and that was nearly impossible, given the franchise agreement Sam had signed. Ben Franklin dictated to franchisees what merchandise they were supposed to sell, and then franchisees were meant to buy most of that merchandise from Ben Franklin's own wholesale business called Butler Brothers, and they charged franchises like Sam a 25% margin on each shipment. Sam felt he was trapped in the Ben Franklin franchise system, so he brainstormed ways margins meant the lowest prices people had ever seen and customers couldn't get enough would quickly spread around the town. About these cheap prices, Sam also tried calling the manufacturers who made the products Ben Franklin stores typically sold, and he then tried to negotiate a deal with them directly so he didn't have to pay the extra 25% commission. And surprisingly, the Ben Franklin owners were furious. Charging franchises for merchandise was a big part of how they made their money. His store needed, from doing the stockroom work to sweeping the floors. That's because they made their profit by keeping expenses to a minimum. It also helped that Sam was extremely competitive and would constantly go to their competitor stores to look at their prices and displays, seeing if there was anything he could learn or improve on. His competitors would often get annoyed seeing Sam spending so much time in their shops, analyzing every detail of how they did things and seeing what prices he need. This man, Sam, had no alternative but to sell the store. He felt sick to his stomach and described it as the lowest point of his life. It didn't seem fair. Sam had built the best variety store in the whole region and poured 5 years of his life into it. And now he was being kicked out of town, and by this point, Sam and his wife had 4 young children that they needed to provide for, which meant Sam needed to figure out his next move, and fast. Sam decided to use his frustration as fuel, and so or a solution, Sam remembered his first business, the paper route, and that gave Sam an idea. He purchased the town's local newspaper. The Benton County Daily Record, owning the local newspaper, allowed him to run advertisements for next to nothing. So, Sam plastered the paper with ads for his new store, and it was only a matter of time until everyone in town knew about it. And as always, Sam paid close attention to the competition. For example, when he heard that 2 stores in Minnesota trying out the new co-clerks, it seems extremely obvious to us today, as that's how we're used to shopping, but at the time, it was a genius new way of doing things. So Sam immediately implemented the system in his own store. Upon returning from his trip, none of the other nearby stores were doing this, and so with fewer employees, Sam was able to further reduce the price of his goods, which brought in even more customers within less than a year. Sam had tripled his income, and of course, Sam kept pushing to find other ways to earn another successful Walton's 5 and dime. But Sam's expansion wasn't seen favorably by everyone, even Sam's own. One wife thought his obsession with growth was getting out of hand one night. She confronted him about it, asking why he felt the need to go out and expand so much. Not only were the number of stores increasing, but they were getting further and further away. However, what Sam's wife saw as the end of their success story, Sam saw as the beginning. He could barely rest thinking about the untap of discount retail stores. Sam needed lots of money. He tried to partner with various businesses, including the Butler Brother wholesalers, but no one wanted to work with him. They didn't want to gamble on the first Walmart, as relying on such low profit margins with such high at-front costs seemed like a big risk. So Sam took the gamble himself. He mortgaged his home and borrowed money from friends and any bank that would lend to him. This allowed him to open his first Walmart store in Rogers, Arkansas, and they saw Walmart as way too small and insignificant to be a threat. So they openly shared details with Sam, which he would later use against them. By 1971, Sam had opened 6 new stores and had 78 partners privately invested in Walmart. What those people didn't know, however, was that Sam was in serious debt, several $1 million worth. See, Sam had always seen debt as a necessity of doing business, but now Sam was in debt to practically every bank in Arkansas and southern Missouri. He always paid GIS of new money, running out. Sam needed a solution fast, and that solution came when Sam decided to explore taking the company public on the stock market. He was extremely worried about giving up control in the business, but he was running out of options. Thus, in 1972, Walmart was listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And this is the point in the story where Walmart starts to transition from being the scrappy underdog to a cutthroat music monopoly. Hey legends, it's John. Here, just wanted to ask you, V can click the link in the description, but remember, it's not Magnets Media. This channel is called Magnets, which just means wealthy and influential business people. Now, up until this point, I've not really used Twitter, so I've never promoted her, but I'm about to start posting there regularly. So if you're at all interested in growing your own YouTube channel, I guarantee you'll be very glad you followed me. I'm also going to pick some of my followers at random to get some free gifts. So if you want to B costs, like replacing wooden shelves with metal ones, or hanging lights from the ceiling with a cheap baling wire, but the aesthetics didn't seem to matter to Walmart. People kept flocking to Walmart for the low prices, and the company kept growing. A year later, Sam had 13 new stores. The next year, he opened 26 more, and the reason for this was both genius and brutal. You see, Walmart was extremely cutthroat about driving competitors out of business. Walmart would open a new shop in a rural RER price. This meant even if these smaller shops sold their items at cost price and made no profit, they still couldn't compete with Walmart's pricing, as Walmart was getting the items for less. Many accused Walmart of predatory pricing because of this, a business strategy in which a company deliberately sets its prices at very low levels with the intent of driving competitors out of the market only to raise them later when the competition is gone. Sam basically admitted to doing this, but he didn't CF 276 stores from then on. They opened about 100 stores per year. Part of this rapid expansion was Sam's willingness to open stores in places nobody else would. The big retailers were ignoring towns below 50,000 residents. Others were willing to go as low as 10,000, but Walmart opened stores in towns smaller than 5,000 people to other retailers. This seemed like a giant waste of resources, but it turns out going rural had big advantages. Firstly, in rural towns, Walmart was able to save money on advertising. Other retailers buy into his services by becoming a wholesaler himself in 1983. Sam opened a wholesale service called Sam's Club, which allowed other retail business owners to buy goods in bulk, and where Sam couldn't own the process, he eliminated it. Why buy goods from New York import houses when he could purchase clothes directly from Central America, shoes directly from Korea, and electronics directly from Taiwan? Sam always tried to cut out the middleman so his costs were lower, and the bigger wall soon enough to stock the new stores, which looked rundown and abandoned. By this point, it was the 1990s, Sam Walton was growing old, and the public reputation of Walmart was tanking. Not only was Walmart struggling to keep up with its own expansion, but criticisms mounted that Walmart was putting other stores out of business because of their enormous size, which was hurting local communities. Smaller stores simply couldn't compete with a store that had the power to buy 100,000 t-shirts at a time. This was Walmart's right, but it was a bad luck for a company making billions to not provide a livable wage to employees. Sam himself admitted to neglecting employee wages because he was so obsessed with cutting costs. Sam Milley tried to make employees feel better about their low-paying jobs. He referred to employees as associates, which sounded more prestigious. He also implemented a weekly company chant to raise morale at weekly Saturday morning meetings. Meanwhile, while he used the tricks of famous Unio, if they unionized. Of course, whilst a lot of this was quite brutal, it's worth stressing that the Walmart business model worked because of cutting costs in every way possible. To be able to give such lower prices to consumers, they had to control costs at every opportunity. Whatever your views on that, there is no denying Sam was incredibly successful. When he died in 1992, at age 74, Walmart had annual revenues exceeding $104 billion. Though not bad for a kid who'd been born into poverty on a farm, however. And you use ShipStation, you get discounts up to 89% off USPS and UPS rates. So, as your business grows, you could be saving thousands on shipping costs. ShipStation has been a big supporter of MixiMedia for a while now, and I know a lot of you guys have already started using it and been saving money on all your shipments. However, if you've been on the fence about joining, now is the perfect time to check ShipStation out, as you can get a 30-day free trial if you use my link in the description. Nomad Walmart management of brainwashing them into working overtime with no extra pay. How by giving employees tasks that were impossible to complete within the time allotted, then pressuring them to finish with no overtime, Walmart paid $1 million to settle the case. And throughout the 2000s, workers and labor organizations continued to accuse Walmart of mistreatment and allegations of unpaid overtime and wage theft. For example, in the documentary Walmart, the high cost of low-price employees discuss how W were earning 3 cents an hour, working 14-hour shifts 7 days a week throughout the 2000s. Walmart kept sourcing goods as cheaply as possible from sweatshop-style factories, and with all the money Walmart was saving, they could focus on their new plan, international expansion. However, this just created a whole new controversy in 2005, when a whistleblower described how Walmart in Mexico had bribed Mexican government officials to win market dominance in a rush to open stores. Walmart had paid bribes to buggy a long-term investigation and exposed the bribery that had taken place. But despite all of this and many other stories involving terrible conditions in Walmart supplier factories, Walmart has managed to become the largest company in the world by revenue and the largest retailer in the United States. So, let me know your thoughts in the comments, because whilst there are clearly some controversies in Walmart's history, they've also lowered prices for consumers. And there's no doubt, from a business perspective, Walmart is an incredible success story. Thank you for watching MixiMedia. I hope you enjoyed the Walmart story, and I'll see you in this next video.